A Place Called Perfect, Chapter 12. No Man's Land. You took your time getting ready, Boy said when Violet finally joined him downstairs. Girls are so slow. No, I didn't, Violet snapped, following him through the hallway. Come on, we have to hurry. The Watchers will be on duty in Perfect soon, and if they catch me here, I'll be in trouble. You make them sound really scary. I'm not going anywhere with you until you tell me what's going on. Shh! Keep your voice down, Violet, Boy whispered, gently closing the front door behind them. I told you, they're the Watchers. They make sure people like me and my friends don't turn up imperfect. They don't want you to know we exist. So there's more like you? She asked. Lots? Boy winked as they raced along the tree-lined avenue towards town. They moved quickly up Splendid Road towards the Archers Brothers Emporium. Then Violet followed Boy up Edward Street, stopping outside the butcher's where he pulled her into the darkness of the doorway. You have to be really careful from now on, he whispered. I can't get caught on this side of the wall, and you can't get caught going into the other. Just follow me and do as I say, okay? Violet looked at him and nodded, her throat dry. She was scared, but she wasn't going to let Boy know. She followed him silently as they slipped out of the darkness and headed towards the town hall. With the wooden glasses on, Perfect didn't look quite so perfect anymore. Even though it was dark, she could see that the paint was chipped and worn from the buildings. The hanging baskets of flowers weren't as full or colourful as they'd seemed. Even a little rubbish whistled past her feet down the empty street. It looks different, she said, sticking closely to Boy's side. It's not the same place, really. Well, it is, and it isn't, he said. They were approaching the town hall when Boy stopped again and beckoned Violet into the darkness of another doorway. That's where the Watchers sit guarding over No Man's Land at night, he said, pointing up to the clock tower on the top of the town hall. There should be some there now. Can you see them? Violet followed Boy's finger and looked up at the tower. She had to crane her neck to see the top. Glass windows glowed warmly against the night sky, and she could see a shadow moving about in the light. There's one, she whispered. Well spotted, Boy said. I always keep an eye on the tower and only move when there's no one there. They don't normally look at the streets of Perfect, as the curfew keeps everyone indoors at night. They mainly watch the walls, but it's better to be safe rather than sorry. They waited for a few minutes as the Watcher moved about inside the tower. Quick, he's gone, Boy said, pulling Violet out of the hiding and past the town hall. She didn't dare look back up and shivered, imagining the phantom figure watching them from above as they snuck along the street. Boy ducked left into Archers Avenue and stopped. Violet almost walked into him in her haste. He raised his hand to signal silence and then stepped into Rag Lane and looked back up towards the tower. Coast's still clear, he whispered, moving quickly down the passage. It was pitch black, and goose pimples rose up on Violet's skin. She could barely see Boy moving just ahead of her. Where are we going, Boy? She whispered. This doesn't lead anywhere. I was here before. Boy didn't utter a word as they headed straight for the dead end. Violet stopped suddenly. A large arched wooden door stood in the middle of the stone wall ahead. There definitely wasn't a door here last time I came, she stuttered. I'm sure of it. That's because the archer's glasses hid it, Boy said. My home is behind that gateway. It's where my people live. And who are your people exactly? Violet asked. The outcasts, the unwanted. We've lots of names, Boy smiled. But we're mainly called the No Man's Landers, and we're definitely not perfect. You'll see. Boy tapped out a gentle rhythm on the large iron knocker on the door in the middle of the gateway. It seemed to be some sort of code. Someone grunted and snorted as if in disgust. Then there was movement on the other side of the wood. They waited for what seemed ages when a hatch by the knocker slid across and a bloodshot eyeball stared out, searching the street. What are you doing standing out there, boy? Have you lost your marbles, young man? And who's that with you? I can't be letting no strangers in here. She's my friend. She got lost. She's new to No Man's Land and ended up outside the wall by mistake. I had to get her back. There was a short click and suddenly the door swung inwards. A round, red-faced woman dressed entirely in purple ushered them through. You'll get me in trouble wandering in and out like that, boy. And who's this friend of yours? She turned to Violet before Boy had a chance to speak. When did you get here, young lady? Who's forgotten you? Violet looked at Boy, her face completely blank. She's a Harper, he said as he pulled Violet through the door. Oh, the woman smirked. I thought your lot were perfect. Suppose there's an odd un in every family. Well, young Harper, make this your home. You ain't getting out of here now, except in a box. The woman's laugh echoed around the high stone walls that loomed over both sides of the narrow road, making Violet shiver. They were still in Rag Lane, only on the other side of the gateway now. Violet could hardly believe she hadn't been able to see the door before. Her wooden glasses were revealing all kinds of surprises. Who was that woman? She whispered as they walked further on. She's the gatekeeper, Boy said. Won't she tell on us? Tell the watchers? No, I don't think so, Boy replied. She'll just think you're new. She won't be suspicious, 'cause I never use the gate normally. Why did you use it this time? You wouldn't be able to follow if I went the other way, he smiled. Yes, I would, Violet said, a little offended. Oh, really? Boy laughed, pointing to the top of the wall that towered above them. Could you climb up there? Violet didn't respond as her stomach did a dance. Of course she could climb the wall, she told herself, if she really wanted to. She followed Boy as the lane sloped downhill and they came to a narrow set of steps that passed through a stone archway. Welcome to No Man's Land, Boy announced proudly. Violet walked through the arch and into another world. The street they were standing on looked like it could have been imperfect. It was the same width and had the same style of stone buildings and street furniture. In fact, everything looked the same. It was just that nothing was perfect. There was broken glass in the street lamps and in a lot of the windows of the buildings. Some of the homes were even missing doors. Flower baskets hung empty and crooked on their perches. Paint was chipped and flaking, weeds grew round the base of the buildings, and potholes dotted the cobbled road. Everything was tattered and broken. Where are we, Boy? Violet asked, looking around. It feels like I'm imperfect, but not, if you know what I mean. Well, you are, and you aren't, Boy laughed at her confusion. He looked up at the wall again. Perfect is on the other side of that, he explained. No Man's Land is in the middle of your town, surrounded by the wall, and nobody knows we're even here. It's not my town, Violet said quickly. But you do live there. Violet ignored Boy and looked around. There were people rushing everywhere, as if it were the middle of the day instead of the middle of the night. What are they doing? She whispered. Working, of course. At night? Yes. Your night is our day. It's the only time we can work in No Man's Land. Once daylight arrives, the Watchers are on patrol, and the No Man's Landers have to stay in their homes. Why? Violet asked. Because the people of Perfect are out and about during the day, Boy said. What if someone's glasses fell off and they heard strange noises floating over the walls? The perfectionists would think they were going mad, just like when your glasses fell off and you heard my voice. Violet remembered the sensation clearly, but standing here now in No Man's Land, a place she hadn't known existed, she still couldn't be sure her overactive imagination wasn't playing tricks on her. But why do the Watchers let you out of your homes in No Man's Land at all, if they want to keep you a secret? Violet asked. I'm not sure, but I've heard stories. I'm too young to remember, but in the beginning, when No Man's Land was first created, the Watchers locked up anyone caught trying to escape. No Man's Landers rebelled for a while, until eventually both sides came to an agreement. The punishments would stop, and the No Man's Landers would be given their freedom at night if they agreed to stop trying to escape and stay within these walls. Oh, that's why there's a curfew in Perfect. It's so we don't hear you lot at night, Violet blurted, as though a light had gone on inside her head. Boy nodded. But why did the No Man's Landers agree to that? Violet asked. It's still a prison. They're still locked inside these walls. People are proud of the deal, Violet, Boy said, a little annoyed. There are no punishments now. Well, hardly any. And people can work. We live normal-ish lives, except our day is reversed. We work at night and sleep in the day. Oh, that's good, Violet said, trying not to offend. Boy was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, he kept his head down. A friend told me once that it's easy to break a person's spirit. He blushed a little. I think that's what's happened to the No Man's Landers. The Watchers broke their spirit. Maybe it's why they don't rebel and try to escape anymore. But any kind of freedom is still freedom, isn't it? I suppose, Violet said, unconvinced. But you're all locked up here. Isn't that a kind of punishment? Why does No Man's Land exist? Is everyone in here a criminal? A chill danced up her spine at the thought. No, Boy snapped. We're not criminals. We're just... I don't know. We're just different. That's all. We're different from the people in Perfect. So they locked you up for being different. Boy shrugged. I can't really answer that, Violet. You'll have to ask the Watchers. People here are not like the perfectionists, though. You'll see. Violet looked around, trying to ease her confusion. The house opposite her was in disrepair. Planks of weather-worn wood were nailed to the windows, holding the place together. Daisies, dandelions and weeds sprouted round its base like decorations. A handwritten chalk sign was nailed to the door in lovely swirly letters that said, Angel Readings. Wafts of light purple and pink material blew through the glassless windows like ghosts in the night. Each broken street lamp held a burning candle, warming the darkness, allowing Violet to see that none of the other buildings around her looked quite solid. Painted wooden planks patterned their facades like colourful sticking plasters. A man suddenly raced past her. He held a broken cane in one hand and an enormous tree branch in the other. Just behind him, a lady wearing a faded and torn pink ball gown puffed and panted as she pedalled a child's tricycle through the crowd. "Excuse me, late for the theatre," she bellowed. Boy tugged on Violet's sleeve, pulling her away from the scene. "Let's have some fun," he smiled. "Come on, there's lots to do here and not very much time to do it in." "This is Forgotten Road," Boy told her as he ran ahead. It was the main street in No Man's Land and ran parallel to Edward Street on the other side of the wall. 3 small cobbled lanes branched off it. They ducked into the first lane, Violet wanting to explore. It was lined with shops selling everything from art classes and second-hand canvases, "only used 3 times," the window sign read, to sewing twine and broken knitting needles. Halfway down they turned onto a narrow passage that linked to the second lane. It was full of odds and ends, things that normal people would call rubbish. One shopfront proudly passed off a moth-eaten lampshade as a hat alongside a flat basketball. They went into the bookshop, but some of the books were missing covers and others even missing pages. People sat reading in the cobbled lane outside on old suitcases and rubber tyres, while a woman stood by the shop doorway reciting poetry at the top of her voice. The bottom of this lane opened onto a square overcrowded with greasy-haired men and women who had set up stalls to sell just about anything. "This is the market yard," Boy said as they pushed past. "We're in the heart of No Man's Land now. This is where most people do their business." Winks and nods passed between the stall owners like a silent language. Children, their clothes and faces caked in dirt, ran barefoot through the crowds. Some of the kids were in gangs, while others hung round on their own. They all seemed to know Boy. Violet was standing by a fruit cart when a tiny barefoot girl raced by and stole an apple right in front of her. The owner, a sweaty fat man, spotted her and gave chase, knocking aside everything in his path. "What will happen to her?" Violet gasped, pulling on Boy's shirt sleeve. "There are street rules here. They're not written down or anything, but everybody knows them. If he catches her, she'll get what she deserves." "He won't hurt her, will he?" "You've some imagination, Violet," Boy smirked. He took off again and skimmed his hand over the stalls as he raced by. When they rounded the corner, he planted his back against the wall and picked 2 ice buns from his pocket. "Let's hope they don't kill thieves," he joked, scoffing down one as he handed the other to Violet. "But that's stealing! You can't steal from people," Violet fumed. "You sound like a perfect girl," Boy mumbled. "I am not." "Well, eat it then," he teased. She looked at the bun, then back at her new friend. Desperate to wipe the smile from his face, she bit deep into its spongy core. "No one's going to take care of you here, Violet," Boy said. "You have to look out for yourself in No Man's Land." Violet shivered at the thought and silently ate her bun while she watched the buzz around her. A shimmer of light caught her eye from across the market. "What's that?" she asked, spotting an odd tree resting in the middle of the market yard. The tree was bent and shriveled, as if it was almost dead. There were no leaves on its branches, but it seemed to be glistening in the darkness. She moved towards it, negotiating the bustle. Boy followed her. As she got closer, she saw what was causing the shimmers of light. Gold and silver coins, pieces of glass, paper, dried flowers, ribbons, and all sorts of other bits and pieces were tied to its branches. Most of the items were worn and faded, like they'd hung there forever, while a few were vibrant and new. A faded red ribbon caught her eye, fluttering on the gentle night breeze. A woven message had been delicately hand-sewn into the material. For the memories I lost to perfect, I will never forget you, ma'am. Your loving daughter, Pip. Pippa Moody, Boy whispered. Moody? Violet started. Could she be related to Mrs. Moody, my school teacher? Yeah, he nodded. Pip was her daughter. We call this the rag tree. The people of No Man's Land used to leave messages here for the loved ones they'd lost. I think they hoped that someday their families might come looking for them, but that's hardly going to happen if they don't even know we exist. People don't really do this anymore. They've stopped hanging stuff on the tree. So the No Man's Landers still have families in Perfect? Boy nodded. Nearly everyone here used to live in Perfect. But what age is Pippa? Violet asked, confused. I think she was 12 when she was taken from Perfect. She's a lot older now, like 20 or something. There are lots more like Pippa. But why do they take children? Violet asked. What about their parents? Don't they notice they're gone? No, like you said, it's almost as if their parents are not their parents anymore. Something happens to people in Perfect. I don't know what it is exactly, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the glasses. With the glasses on, No Man's Land doesn't exist, and we, he drew a circle with his finger around the people in the market, are all like living ghosts. Violet gulped and tried not to think about how strangely her parents had been behaving lately. What happened to Pippa? She asked. She was disobeying the rules. Nothing serious, but you know small things are big in Perfect. One night the Watchers came to her house. They snatched her from her bed and brought her here. She snuck out loads of times to try and get help from her family, but she was invisible to them. It didn't take long for them to forget all about her. But what if that happens to me? Violet stammered. Is it only children they take? Maybe they took my dad. It won't happen to you, said the boy reassuringly. Well, not yet, anyway. But what about Dad? Do you think he's here? She said, eyeing the crowd. I don't think so. Some adults have been here from the beginning, when the Watchers first started locking people up inside the walls. But that's unusual. Most of the adults in No Man's Land were taken when they were children. They've grown up here. Adults, you see, seem to fall under Perfect spell more easily than children. They seem to like the rules. Why? Violet shivered. Beats me, he said, moving out of the market, back onto one of the lanes. Come on, we're late. What for? Getting you home. The sun'll be up soon. The Watchers will be back patrolling No Man's Land, making sure we're all inside. If they catch you in here, there'll be trouble. And that's the end of chapter 12.